Now that we understand how a monopolist is going to choose its level of output and production, let's look at the social cost of monopoly. Here we're going to assume we're looking at a monopolist that is maximizing its profits and has constant cost industry. So its long-run average cost is equal to its long-run marginal cost, and it's going to be horizontal. We know that the profit-maximizing monopolist is going to look at marginal cost and marginal revenue, and where these two are equal, or where they cross here at point A, that determines how much is going to be produced. So this monopolist is going to produce 200 doses of the drug per hour. Then determining how much the price is, you do that by going up from 200 to the demand curve to find out the market's willingness to pay for 200 doses of the drug per hour, and we see the price is $18. How does that compare to what we would expect to see in a perfectly competitive constant cost industry? If this were a perfectly competitive market, we would see that the long-run supply curve is the same as the marginal cost curve as we see in perfect competition. So long-run supply is going to be this horizontal red line, market demand is this blue line, and we would see equilibrium here at point C with a price of $8 and a quantity of 400 doses per hour. So what we see, the effect of a monopolist is an increase in the price and a restriction in the quantity compared to perfectly competitive outcome. We tend to see a restriction of supply, a restriction of the quantity that's being supplied to the market, and an increase in the price charged for what's being sold. What do we see when we look at what the actual social cost is? Well, let's look at this graph here where we've got the demand curve and the long-run average cost and the market supply curve. And so if this is the perfectly competitive market, we know that we get equilibrium here at point C, and we would get the consumer surplus being everything under the demand curve but above the price. So consumer surplus would be equal to A plus B plus D. Now for the monopolist, we know that the profit-maximizing choice is to produce and charge at point B with 200 doses per hour and charging $18. Well, what do we see for the monopolist? We would have consumer surplus equal to the area A. Now, this is smaller than it was under perfect competition, so consumer surplus has gone down by B plus D. Now, what about B? Well, B is going to be profits for the firm. So the profits for the monopolist have increased up to the equal to the area B here. So instead of consumer surplus, now it's producer surplus. However, we do have a deadweight loss, or a loss in overall surplus for the monopolist compared to perfect competition, and that's the area of this triangle here, D. It's a measure of the inefficiency of monopoly. Because of that inefficiency and because of the loss of overall surplus to society, we tend to regulate monopolies. If they are necessary, in some instances, we'll try to regulate the price that they charge. And if we don't think a monopoly is supported by the cost structure of the industry, then we will outlaw them with antitrust laws.